বিসমিল্লাহির রহমানির রহিম। আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম স্যার, সালাম আলাইকুম, ভালো আছেন?
আছি কি লোটাস, ভালো ভাই।
জি, ভালো আছি।
দেখা যায়।
জি স্যার।
একটু আলাপ করে নেই। আজকে তো ক্লাস স্পেশাল সেশন। আমাদের সদ্য সিও স্যার, বাবু শুভাশিস বোস স্যার, উনি নেবেন। এটা সেকেন্ড রাউন্ড, সিনপসিস কাছে রাখেন। আর ইংরেজিতে তো হয়, সেশনটা হয়, এজন্য ছোটখাটো প্রয়োজনে যেগুলো যতদূর পারা যায় রেসপন্স করেন। জাস্ট বুঝার জন্য, যে না বুঝলে প্লিজ এক্সপ্লেন স্যার, অথবা রিকন্টিনিউ স্যার, এভাবে। অ্যাকচুয়ালি স্যার, উই আর নট আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং, প্লিজ এক্সপ্লেন এগেইন, অথবা প্লিজ রিভিজিট দ্য লেকচার। ছোট ছোট ইংরেজি বলতে আর শিখে নেন। ট্যাক্সটা এখানে আমার প্রফেশনালে, এখানে মন দিয়ে যদি আপনি শেখেন, তাহলে ট্যাক্সটা এখানেও পাস হয়ে যায়, পরেও একটা ইয়ে থাকে। অডিট অ্যাসুরেন্স বা অ্যাসুরেন্স এখন প্রফেশনাল অডিট অ্যান্ড অ্যাসুরেন্স, এবং অ্যাকাউন্টিং, ফিনান্সিয়াল অ্যাকাউন্টিং, এগুলো বেসিক সাবজেক্ট বলা হয় সিএসে। কিন্তু ডিমান্ড অফ দ্য মার্কেট অ্যান্ড ইউজিং পারপাসেস অফ দ্য নেসেসিটি, পারচেজ অফ কমিউনিটিজ, যেখানে আয় ব্যয় নাই সেখানে অডিট নেই। এই জন্য অ্যাসেসমেন্ট অফ ট্যাক্সেস, পার্ট অ্যান্ড পার্সেল is now for the commodities, especially livelihood communities. এই জন্য ট্যাক্সটা গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। আপনি যারা এখানে ভালো করে ট্যাক্স শিখেন, রেগুলার টিচার পড়াচ্ছে, আমাদের সিও স্যার পড়ায়, আইটি প্র্যাকটিশনার হয়ে যদি যান, গ্রাজুয়েশনের পরে এটা দরখাস্ত করা যায় গ্রাজুয়েশন থাকলে। তো জি আসসালামু আলাইকুম। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ বাবু, পাওয়া যায়নি। কালকে না, সেশন কবে? হ্যাঁ আমি ইয়ার ভিতরে আমি এক সেশনে ঢুকে আছি। হ্যাঁ দাদা, শর্টে রিভিউ দিব তো। আরে না, বড় বাবু, হাউ মাচ বিল হোয়াট ইউ আর সেইং? খুঁজে নিব নিয়ে আমি ওই যে আপনার ক্লাসেই মনে হয় ইয়াতে আছি, একটু ওরা ছাত্রদের সাথে কথা বলি, ঠিক আছে? হ্যাঁ, তো সরি, টিচার ফোন করছে। তো এখন যেটা বলতে চাইলাম যে ইফ ইউ হ্যাভ পাস্ট গ্রাজুয়েশন ডিগ্রি, দ্যাট মিনস বিএ, বিকম, বিএসসি, বিবিএ, বিজনেস ফ্যাকাল্টি, এগুলোই তো চারটা মনে হয় মেরুদণ্ড এখন। এগুলো যেগুলোই থাকুক, you may apply attach with the same profession income tax practitioner, and সেখানে আগে ভাইবা হতো, এখন মনে একটা এমসিকিউ টাইপের রিটেন হয় আন্ডার দি গাইডেন্স অফ এনবিআর। তো ওটা করলে আপনি ইউ ক্যান বেয়ার দ্য এক্সপেন্সেস, ইভেন আর্ন। অনেকেই আমাদের সিএ ছাত্ররা ম্যাক্সিমামই আইটি প্র্যাকটিশনার, পরবর্তীতে সিএ যখন হয়ে যান তখন তো ডাইরেক্ট অডিটর হয়ে যান। তো যেটা বলতে চাচ্ছি, এবং অলসো রিকমেন্ডেড পারপাসেস টু, তো এটার দিক খেয়াল রাখবেন। জাস্ট টু কনভে দ্য ইনফরমেশন ফর ইউথ, আইটি প্র্যাকটিশনার হলে একটা ইনকাম সোর্স হলো ছাত্র জীবনে, এবং কিছু আর্নিং করলে লেখাপড়াও চলবে, ভালো খারাপ এটা এনবিআররা ইস্যু করে অন্যান্যদের সাথে। যারা এজাজ, আমার কথা শোনা যায়? রোটাস,
স্যার শুনতেছি স্যার।
মন দিয়ে শোনেন, আমি যখন আসবো আগে নিবেন, পরে আপনারা দিবেন।
জি স্যার, অবশ্যই স্যার।
এগুলো কেউ বলে না ওভাবে, হয়তো এইভাবে পাওয়া যাবে না, এই জন্য একটু মন দিয়ে শুনতে হবে। তো সেটা হলো কি, যে জাস্ট ফর ইনফরমেশন, ইন দা কোর্সেস, that means in courses of CA, you can obtain the সার্টিফিকেট বলে আইটিপি, ইনকাম ট্যাক্স প্র্যাকটিশনার। যেহেতু এত ট্যাক্সেশনের উপর একটু কেয়ার নেওয়া হচ্ছে, আমরা সব নিচ্ছি। I think you are to also apply there and attend the MCQ টেস্ট হয়। আগে ভাইবা হতো, আমাদের রঞ্জন স্যারেরা ওখানে ছিলেন, আরো ট্যাক্সের যে দু তিনটা থাকতেন, আমাদের সিও ছাত্র ভাইবাতে গেলেই সার্টিফিকেট দিয়ে দিতেন, প্র্যাকটিস করতেন। লয়ের, যেমন ইয়ের উকিল, লয়ের উকিল আছে, কি লিখলো আমি বুঝতে পারিনি, কেউ আছে যে আছে, তাহলে আমি পিসি দিয়েছে, ও পিসি ও অন্যরে বলছে। আচ্ছা, তাহলে এখন এগুলো এসবে লিখতে হয় না। কি তাহলে আমি
ভুলে
নিজে,
ভুলে চলে গেছে স্যার, সরি স্যার।
ওগুলো পার্সোনালে দিতে হয়। তো সবাই জেনে গেল যে তুমি একটু ট্রাবলে আছো। তো যেটা বলতে চাইলাম যে হয়ে গেল, তো ভালো ইনকাম আসলে, উই আর লার্নিং, বলে না, উই আর লার্নিং ফর আর্নিং। তো মাই ডিয়ার, কিছু কিছু ক্ষেত্র আছে, সময় যখন আসবে সেটাকে ইউটিলাইজ করতে হয়। জ্ঞানী মানুষদের কথা, আমি তো অধম মূর্খ। তো যেটা বলতে চাচ্ছি, এটা ইউ মাস্ট বি, এটারে বলে ইনটলারেন্ট, আর অলসো ইনডিউস দ্য সিচুয়েশন টু হোয়াট take the facility, even opportunity to obtain or to achieve any certificate, any degree, else and where, তার মানে যেখানে যা পাওয়া যাবে। এই সুযোগ তো থাকবে না ছাত্র জীবনে, আবার সুযোগ সময় যখন দেখি আমাদের থাকি দেখি স্যার আমার কাছে। হ্যাঁ, তো যেটা বলতে চাইলাম যে এগুলো খেয়াল রাখতে হবে, বিশেষ করে আইটি প্র্যাকটিশনার। আর সার্টিফিকেট লেভেল পাস হয়ে গেলে আর মাস্টার্স পাস হয়ে গেলে, ইফ ইউ আর টু পাস সার্টিফিকেট লেভেল and all as well as masters, you can enter any profession, SPO বা সমমর্যাদা পেয়ে যাবেন উইদাউট লবিং অর কি বলে যে এটার ইনফ্লুয়েন্স or biasness. You will be received or got management level, mid level job anywhere. এই জন্য একটু কষ্ট করে লেখাপড়া, সার্টিফিকেটটা আসলে নলেজ বেস, এত জ্ঞান, আমরা তো কাজ করি এখানে, তো এই জন্য এত কঠিন না। টেক attempt more and more and ensure efforts therewith and you will success. বহুজন পাশ করে এই এক সেশন থেকে। সর্বাধিক যত যেসব চয়েস একটা দুইটা করে ক্লাস নিয়ে ভুল করছেন, সর্বাধিক যত এনরোল করে পরীক্ষা দেওয়া যায়, যেহেতু 3/4 3টা পরীক্ষা হচ্ছে, কত ভালো। একটা আমি দিলাম, দুইটা দিলাম, পাশ করলাম না, অথবা লেখবাহীন সিচুয়েশন একটাই থাকলাম, লাভটা কি হলো দাদারা, আবার দিদিরা, বোনেরা। তো এখন কি হলো যে ইফ ইউ আর টু টেক অ্যাটেম্পট and sit for the exam, numerous subject, that means total subject. সঞ্জিদা কি কে যেন খুব চেষ্টা করতেছিল ঢুকতে, দেখতেছি সানন্দা মনে হয়, ঢুকতেই পারতেছে না, ঢুকতে, এটা কেমন একটা যেমন সানন্দা অনেক চেষ্টা করে পরে ঢুকে, মানে ইয়েতে জুমে বলতেছে, হয়তো নেটওয়ার্ক পায় না, আমিও মাঝে মধ্যে আউট হয়ে যাই। তো যেটা বলতেছিলাম যে পরীক্ষা দিতে হলে সর্বাধিক দেওয়ার চিন্তা ভাবনা রাখতে হবে, এবং ওইভাবে এনরোলমেন্ট না করলে পরীক্ষা দেওয়া যায় না। You should be also aware in next time, যা হওয়ার হয়ে গেছে, যারা একটা দুইটা করছেন নেক্সটটা বেশি করে প্রস্তুতি নেবেন। এনরোল খালি এনরোল করলেন, প্রস্তুতি নাই, তার তো লাভ হলো না। আবার এনরোল করলেন একটা, প্রস্তুতি নিলেন ভালো, পাস, তাহলে আবার অনেক সময় লাগবে। এজন্য মধ্যপন্থা, এগুলো ওয়াইজরা বলেন, বিভিন্ন ধর্মের কথাবার্তা, সব ধর্মে মধ্যপন্থা অবলম্বন করতে হয়। অতিরিক্ত চিন্তা ভালো না, আবার ওভার নেস, অতি সচেতনতা ভালো না। তাহলে কি করতে হবে? মধ্যপন্থা করতে হবে, যেটা মাঝামাঝি থাকতে হবে। বেশি জোরে গেলে অ্যাক্সিডেন্ট, আসতে গেলে ব্যাকয়ার্ড, তারপরে পিছনে। সেজন্য মধ্যভাবে ধীরে ধীরে ইঞ্জিন চালাতে হবে, ইঞ্জিন ফিজিওলজিক্যাল টার্মস অফ টোটাল বডি ইঞ্জিন চলতে হবে, জন্য সব মাঝামাঝি ব্যালেন্সড, কিপ ব্যালেন্সড অ্যান্ড অলসো অ্যাডভান্স or to progress, এভাবে আগাতে। অনেক কথাই বললাম, এই ফাঁকে একটু বলে নেই, সেটা হচ্ছে যে ক্লাসগুলো কোনো মতেই আপনারা ইয়ে করবেন না, মিস করেন না। অত্যন্ত ভালো ক্লাস, গুরুত্বপূর্ণ ক্লাস। You are studious and so please join and take advance of your proper learning. আমাদের শ্রদ্ধ সিও স্যার হয়তো চলে আসছেন বা আসবেন কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যে। আমরা স্যারকে 7:30টায় স্যার ছেড়ে দিব। তো এখন মানে আই উইল হ্যান্ড ওভার, স্যারকে দিয়ে দেবো। যেটা বলতে চাইলাম, 2-3টা জিনিস জেনে নেই। সপ্তাহে 7 দিনই ক্লাস চলতেছে, কোনো শিডিউল এখন পর্যন্ত মাশাআল্লাহ এই গ্যাপ যায় না। কোনো টিচার একটু বেশি পড়ালে মেনে নিয়েন, আবার কোনো আর্জেন্সি থাকলে ওটাকে ওইভাবে ধরাও ঠিক হবে না, 5 মিনিট 10 মিনিট। ওটা ম্যাক্সিমাম টিচারই এরকম নন। They will be trying to the best to be upon you here and make fit to sit for the exam, my dear. এই জন্য আমাদের শিক্ষক মন্ডলীগুলো অত্যন্ত কি বলবো যে মার্জিত and they are very dedicated in this profession. সবাই বলে এজন্য though you are entry level, my dear you all, যারা পেশে আছেন এখনো লেখাপড়া ডাইরেক্ট আন্ডার গ্রাজুয়েশন, যারা গ্রাজুয়েশন করেছেন, মাস্টার্স হয়ে গেছে, যারা কিছু জবে আছেন, কিছু ফার্মে আছেন, সকলকে বলছি যে সেশনটা এইভাবে ব্যক্তি করেন। ক্যাপ্টেন্স, all three captains, you are very good and actually you are pleased upon your good contribution or services to the students to link up with us, that means management, and ensure your requirements to the students. এই জন্য থ্যাংক ইউ, এভাবে যোগাযোগ রাখতে হবে। আর আমরা আছি, অসুবিধা নাই। নভেম্বর অনেক দূর, সেপ্টেম্বর, অক্টোবর, নভেম্বর, কাজে এই ক্লাসের মধ্যে সব শেষ হয়ে যাবে। শেষ করবো, কিছু স্পেশাল সেশন চলছে আমাদের শ্রদ্ধা প্রধান নির্বাহী স্যারের মতো, আরো দু একটা অন্য সাবজেক্টের চিন্তা করি, বোর্ডের অ্যাপ্রুভাল নিয়ে আমরা করে ফেলবো। হয়তো দু একটা কঠিন লাগে, আর ভালো টিচার যারা দু একটা সেশন আমরা এক্সট্রা স্পেশাল সেশন হিসাবে করিয়ে দেব। তবে আমাদের ইয়ে থাকবে, আমার রিকোয়েস্ট, ইভেন ইনস্ট্রাকশন ফর অল অফ ইউ, দ্যাট you should also ask the teacher to complete within the course outline, class outline, অথবা টার্গেটেড ক্লাসেস, অ্যালোটেড ক্লাসেস। যে কয়েকটা ক্লাস দেওয়া হলো না সাবজেক্ট, সবারকে স্পেসিফিক রুটিন আমরা দিয়ে দিলাম, এর ভিতরেই আপনারা কমপ্লিট করে নিয়ে যে কোনো জিনিস সিস্টেমে ভালো, ডিসিপ্লিনে ভালো, স্ট্রাকচার্ড ওয়েতে ভালো। যেন এমন না হয় এক চ্যাপ্টারই 3 দিন, এগুলো দরকার নাই। as far as good, and also try to resolve or solve of your study requirements, my dear all. আপনারা সকলে প্রায় এখন সেন্সিবল, সেন্সিবল হলে ম্যাচিউরড, কাজে এই চিন্তা ভাবনা করে আমরা ইনশাল্লাহ ভালো করতেছি আর করবো। তো থ্যাংক ইউ। এমনি লোটাস আমার মোটামুটি হয়ে গেল, আর ক্লাসগুলো করি শুক্রবার। একটু সবাই হয়তো একটু বেড়াতে চান, এই তো কয়েকদিন পরে পরীক্ষা, আর ক্লাসটা হয়ে যাক, এটা নর্মস আমাদের সি এডুকেশনের এরকম সিলেবাসটা, এটা হিউজ সিলেবাস। এই জন্য আপনারা যদি শুক্রবারে একটা সেশন দুপুরে না করি তাহলে কভার হবে না। 7 দিনই তো 7টায়, শুক্রবার শুধু একটা সেশন, তো এই জন্য মেনে নিয়েন। দু একজন ছাত্র বলে আমার ঘন্টন করে, স্যার শুক্রবার একটু বেড়াই টেরাই, একটু হয় না, তো একটু অন্য সময় ম্যানেজ করে নিন। ওই 3 ঘন্টাটা শুক্রবার 3টা থেকে যে সেশনটা হয়, না দিলে দুটো ক্লাস ইয়া হয়ে যাবে। আল্লাহ স্যার, এটা হলে কোর্সে প্রায় আমাদের 12টা শুক্রবার পরে 24টা ক্লাস উইল বি লস্ট। কাজেই দরকার নেই, যেভাবে চলছে ইনস্টিটিউট ভালোই চলতেছে, ক্লাসে মাশাআল্লাহ, কাজে অসুবিধা হবে না। লোটাস কিছু বলার আছে ভাই? না হলে আমি একটু কনক্লুড করে স্যারকে।
ধন্যবাদ স্যার, আপনি আসছেন স্যার, অনেক ধন্যবাদ।
ঠিক আছে মাই ডিয়ার, একটু ব্যস্ত হয় আর সব কোর্স থাকে, চালু থাকে, এই জন্য। আর আরেকটা হলো, কারো এনি নেসেসিটি প্লিজ টক উইথ লোটাস, নুরুজ্জামান আমাদের এখানে আছে, অন্যান্য যারা আছেন ক্যাপ্টেন। আর যদিও ওদের ইয়ে থাকে কোনো কি প্রিয় প্রফেশন, ডাইরেক্ট আমাদের মেল দিবেন, আমাদের সাথে কথা বলবেন, আমাদের টাচে থাকবেন। আর মাশাআল্লাহ
স্যার,
কিছু
স্যার
ভালো
সবার,
চলছে।
স্যার একটু কথা বলি স্যার, যদি পারমিশন দেন।
হ্যাঁ,
স্যার
না,
সবার একটু কনসার্ন আছে স্যার, যে ওই যে সবাই তো আমরা ভালো মতো ক্লাস করতেছি আলহামদুলিল্লাহ,
হ্যাঁ,
মনোযোগ দিয়ে করতেছি, এখন তারপরেও যদি রেকর্ডিং গুলা সব ঠিক মতো প্রোভাইড করা হয়
হ্যাঁ।
তাহলে খুব ভালো হয় স্যার এটা।
আচ্ছা, রেকর্ডিং আমি অলরেডি শুনলাম। আর যেটা বলি যে রেকর্ডিংটা সপ্তাহে দিব, সপ্তাহে হলে একসাথে এক লটে আপনারা পাবেন, এটা ভালো হবে। আর একটা একটা করে দিলে দেখা যাবে যে আমাদের সেশন তো এখানে কি বলে যে পার ডে হচ্ছে কয়টা, 8টা লোটাস, 4 দুগুণ 8টা, আবার
জি
অ্যাডভান্স
জি
প্রফেশনাল। তো এই জন্য আমাদের জুম চালু আছে মোট 7টা, 7 দুগুণ 14টা প্রতিদিন ক্লাস। ওই একটা ক্লাস হলে 28টা হয়ে যাবে।
জি জি জি, হ্যাঁ আমাদের কাছে মনে হচ্ছে একটা দুইটা, কিন্তু আসলে যে হ্যান্ডেল
এই
করতেছে
জন্য
তার কাছে অনেকগুলা।
মাই ডিয়ার, ইনক্লুডিং অল, সপ্তাহে ইয়া করে দিয়ে দেব। আর আমরা একটু ইয়েতে আছি, কি বলে লোক বলে, এটা হয়তো শর্টলি হয়ে যাবে, তো কাজে অসুবিধা হবে না। আর সপ্তাহে অ্যাজ ইউজুয়াল আমরা প্র্যাকটিস সপ্তাহে দেই। আর সিনপসিস যেগুলো এগুলো তো সাথে সাথে থাকে।
জি জি জি।
আর একটু হয়নি, দেখি 3 দিনে এনে দেবো। হ্যাঁ,
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ।
ওটা
না,
আছে।
একটু দেরি, একদিন দুই দিন দেরি হলে সমস্যা নাই, কিন্তু সবগুলা যেন পাই এইটা
না,
নিশ্চিত।
সবগুলো পাবো,
জি এইটাই।
সবগুলো পাবেন। এটাই
জি জি অবশ্যই।
অ্যাকচুয়ালি এটারে বলে যে ইউ আর রেসপন্সিবল, ইভেন দিস ইজ দ্য অ্যাসেট ইনস্টিটিউট ইনক্লুডিং ইউ। ইউ
ইয়েস
আর দ্য
স্যার।
জিস্ট বেসিক, কাজে মাই ডিয়ার নো প্রবলেম, ওটা দিতে হবে এবং আমরা দিয়ে থাকি। তো আমি শেষ করি, আমি একটু আমাদের অভিভাবক আমাদের শ্রদ্ধেয় স্যার আসছেন, কাজে আমি এখন হ্যান্ড ওভার করি আর সিনপসিস গুলো একটু সামনে রাখি।
জি
আর as usual, it's a great opportunity for you, very appropriate opportunity, a possibility also to influence or advance your conversation English, presentation English, how to present, discuss, even to continue the session. Please follow the lecture of our respected CEO sir. ব্যস্ত থাকেন সারাদিন, আমাদের চেয়ে আরো ব্যস্ত। ওই জন্য আসেন যখন, একটু ভালো করে কথাবার্তা বলি, যেটা বুঝি না জেনে নেই। আর এটা কন্ট্রিবিউশন, স্যার তো আর এখানে আমাদের টিচার ওইভাবে রেগুলার নন, আপনার স্পেশাল সেশন, স্পেশালাইজড ফ্যাকাল্টি, গেস্ট ফ্যাকাল্টি, কাজেই এইভাবে আমরা ক্লাসটা করি। থ্যাংক ইউ। বাই দিস টাইম ইউ হ্যাভ সেন্ড দ্য সিনপসিস অ্যান্ড প্লিজ হোল্ড ইট and continue the session. Sir, I'm your Halim sir, and also request you please come into the videos and just to start your valuable speeches, sir. Adab, sir. থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার, শুরু করা যাবে আর প্রস্তুতি সবাই নিয়ে আছে। তো আমি অনুমতি নিয়ে বিদায় নিচ্ছি, আপনি শুরু করেন। আদাব স্যার। ছাত্ররা বিদায়, আল্লাহ হাফেজ।
আসসালামু
Okay.
আলাইকুম স্যার।
Alaikum assalam.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।
Alaikum assalam.
আসসালামু
Good
আলাইকুম স্যার,
evening.
কেমন আছেন স্যার?
ভালো আছি. Thank you so much. How are you?
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ স্যার।
Good. Okay, so let us start the session with you. I believe I had one class with you before, and this is the next one, meaning that it is second one. And you have got a regular teacher, as we understand, and you are learning many topics on income tax for your examination. However, this is a special class which will be taken by me in order to discuss some of the issues, basic concepts, etc., and to share my views with you as well as your views with me. So in the first session, we discussed the concept of income tax, how income tax was introduced, types of income tax, maxims of a good taxation system, as it is very important for each and every country, and different, maxims which can help a country well, and what maxims we have adopted, and what should have been the best maxim that we could have taken. And also the receipts, that means revenue receipts and capital receipts, revenue expenditure, capital expenditure, etc. So these were the issues we discussed in the first session. And today we would be discussing the terminologies of income tax. Which terminologies would be useful to you in order to go deep into the details of the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. So, as we know that the terminologies are under section 2 of the Income Tax Ordinance 1984, meaning that you will be having the terminologies at the beginning of the income tax ordinance. Hello. So the terminologies are actually arranged in alphabetical orders. That means if you look at the terminologies, you will see that they have been arranged according to the letters of the alphabet. That means a definition or a terminology that starts with the letter A is placed first, and later on others will follow. So something like that. So if you have already gone through section 2 of Income Tax Ordinance 1984 as amended up to the 30th day of June 2022, you will see that all the definitions have been arranged and placed under section 2. And this is just to remind you that you should have a basic understanding about the terminologies which are mentioned there, because in every chapter you will have some terminologies. Let us suppose the first terminology. We will not be discussing all the terminologies here, but we will be discussing the important terminologies which you come across all the time. So first of all, you will see annual value. Annual value, the definition of annual value has been given, but you must know why annual value is important for you to understand, because this is related to section 24. Section 24 means you have to calculate the house property income of a person. So in order to arrive at the income of an apartment or a flat or a house or any other house property, you need to know how you would be able to calculate it. It's not just the rental value that you have to take into consideration, but rather you have to determine the annual value of the property first. So what the annual value of the property is. And you know that the source of income from house property is important, because most of the individuals who have businesses or who have professions or who are salaried persons of the corporate sector, they might have one flat or one apartment or more than one flat or apartment. So in one flat, he or she lives, and in the other flat, he actually rents out to a particular person. And it's very natural that the income of the house property has to be included in the total income determination of the individual. So in order to calculate the income from house property, annual value has to be calculated first, or has to be determined first. So what is the annual value? The annual value is the value for which the property might reasonably be expected to let from year to year. So very important thing here is that the value for which the property might reasonably. So here reasonably, this term is very important. Might reasonably be expected to let from year to year. So it means that it can depend on a particular year, or it can vary from one year to another year, meaning that the value of the property should not be stagnant or should not be similar every year. It could vary, and it should be reasonably expected value. So these are the two important things which are actually necessary for you to understand. That's why if a rental value is given by the landlord or the landowner, that might not be accepted by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes while calculating income from the house property. So that's why rental value is not the annual value of the property. So sometimes this was called bona fide annual value, but nowadays this is called annual value. And if the rental value is less than the annual value, the annual value would be determined by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, meaning that when the rental value is mentioned by the SSC and the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes thinks that this value is not appropriate or is not reasonable, in that case, he can estimate the value of the property. And in that case, his estimated value would be treated as the annual value of the property. But sometimes the reverse thing might happen. The Deputy Commissioner of Taxes can think that the value of this property could be this. That means, say, for example, could be 6 lakh taka per year. That should be the reasonable price that the property should fetch. But if the SSC shows it at taka 7,50,000 for the whole year, then what happens? The estimated value, which has been made by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, is less than the rental value shown by the SSC or taxpayer. In that case, the shown value, since it is higher than the expected value or estimated value, would be the annual value of the property. So this is just to take into account that when the rental value is higher than the expected value, the rental value would be treated as the annual value. But when the rental value is less than the expected value, then expected value would be determined by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes as per his estimate. Okay, then how the expected value or the estimated value would be made by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes? It depends on some factors. Maybe the location. Location could be one of the factors to consider. A house property or an apartment in Dhanmondi area would not be the same as a property in Siddheshwari area. So it could be different. And the value of that property would also be different. And whenever facilities are different, say for example, your apartment has got a certain size and my apartment has got a certain size. So if the sizes are different, of course, the value of the property would be different. Again, depends on the amenities available in the apartment. If your house is a furnished one, and if my house is an unfurnished one, then it will depend on the amenities that have been made available in a particular apartment. So your house will definitely bring more value than my house, because the person who will hire your house will pay you more, and the person who will hire my house will definitely pay me less. So depends. So it's on the situation, on the environment, and also, as I have said to you, that depends on the location as well, and the demand, of course. If the demand of a house property in Dhanmondi area is high, then it will definitely bring more value. And the demand of a house property in Mugdapara definitely is not that much. So it will bring less amount of money as rental value. So these are the factors that have to be taken into account while calculating the annual value of the property. And when the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes receives a return from you. And if you are an SSC under his jurisdiction, in that case, your record is there. That means the previous assessments are there, which were made by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes himself or by his predecessors. So the value, that means the annual value of your apartment, which was calculated before or determined before, could also be taken into account. So for example, the value was determined 3 years ago, but after 3 years, the DCT has got reasonable cause to increase or enhance the annual value of the property. However, there are some other situations when the value of the property would not rise. What are the situations? Say, for example, pandemic situation. During the pandemic situation, many people actually left houses and they went back to their village homes. And many people actually demanded lower rental value because they requested the landlords to reduce the rental value. That was also found in abundance during the period of pandemic. So in such a situation, definitely it is not expected that the rental value or the annual value of a property would rise. Rather, it would decrease, or the value could go down or decline. So these are the situations under which the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes can determine the value of the property as the annual value. So I believe this is clear to you.
Excuse me, sir. I have a question regarding the rental value.
Tell me.
Sir, excuse me, sir. I have a question regarding the rental value. So
Yes, tell me.
You mentioned the rental value decide on the area, like a Dhanmondi, Gulshan, and etc. whatever. But there is some cases, the building decoration quality. I'm talking about the interior and exterior design and old and new building. So is there any standard to make this range from DCT? DCT, he can decide this one is fixed. I'm talking about the standard rate actually. So
No.
Many cases DCT did not visit the place physically. So he just fixed maybe the rental value based on the assumption area. But building quality and new and old building, there is many variation. So what can the solution if SSC declared, for example, rental value 10,000 taka per apartment, but DCT decided 50,000 taka. How can solve this issue?
Okay, so as I have already told you that there are various factors to take into account while calculating the annual value of the property. As you have said that there would be various facilities available to an apartment, say for example, swimming pool, maybe community hall, maybe gymnasium, etc. Those are available in a boundary. That means in a house property or where there are so many apartments in a building, and the value of those properties or those houses will definitely be determined on the basis of the facilities available. So what you have said is that it has to be determined on the basis of physical inspection. Whenever the DCT thinks that this area is supposed to have better facilities or better standard of buildings, maybe very good developers are there constructing the building and apartments, etc. So in that case, he should actually physically inspect that area or an apartment. How to do that? He can send his inspector to that place in order to determine at what prices the apartments are being rented out. So if you see that an apartment in the same area has been rented out at 50,000 taka per month, and if a similar apartment has been rented out at 30,000 taka per month, so if there is such difference between the two, in that case, definitely the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would determine the value of the second property at taka 50,000 per month on the basis of the rent of the first property. So it's very natural. And it will also depend on some other factors. As you have lightly mentioned that the property is a new one and another property is an old one. So yes, of course, if the property is an old one, the value of that property will not be the same as the new property is. So that is also sure, but it depends on the location. There are new properties in Uttara area, but there are old properties in Dhanmondi area. But the rental value or the annual value will not be the same, even if the size of the apartment is same. So depend on the location. So that's why it actually depends on the physical inspection of the area. An inspector of a circle would visit those areas and he will find out by asking people or through a survey at what price the apartments have been sold out. Definitely, he can have a proper answer from many people, if not from all people, but from many people. So whenever such an assessment could be made by the Inspector of Taxes, he will send a report to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes stating the names of the apartment owners. So whenever he will look at the file of that particular person, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would be able to determine or calculate the annual value of the property. Sometimes he will see that a particular part of the same locality falls under two jurisdictions, maybe Circle A, Circle B. So the west side of the area falls under Circle B and the east side of the area falls under Circle A. So there are different files in those two jurisdictions, that means circles. So Deputy Commissioner of Taxes can ask for an information from his colleague with regard to the rental value of a property. So in that case also the value could be determined. So there is no standard rate actually. There is no fixed rate. It will definitely depend on the assessment, that is assessment of the location, and also on the previous records. And with the inflation, of course, since there is an inflation, the value of the property will rise, and all those factors would be contributing to the determination of the annual value. Okay.
Okay, sir. I have another question, sir. So regarding the rental value. So when SSC declared the yearly income, I'm talking about the rental income, but there is no authentication. How can DCT prove that things yearly rental income is this one? For my cases, I am living in rented house, but our landlord, we pay through cash. And sometimes we notice that things, the electricity meter is regular, although I have some electric gadget, but maximum cases, the electricity bill is minimum. There is no way to prove this apartment is rented or not rented. And at the same time, I pay the landlord through cash, no banking channel. So in that case, if landlord try to hide the income, rental income, how can it prove? Is there any way to prove these things? This is my question. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. So there is no method or there is no measure through which the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would be able to see whether the apartment has been rented out to a particular person by the landlord or not. So only survey can find out whether the apartments are sold out, rented out or not. Sometimes you will see that information has been sought by concerned authorities. And of course, if you go to the city corporation area, when the land revenue will be calculated or city corporation tax will be calculated, you have to mention whether your apartment has been rented out or not, whether you are living in that apartment or not. If you are living in that apartment, how many people are there in your family, and whether you need one apartment or whether you need two apartments, etc., etc. These are some information which are actually provided by the landowners, apartment owners. So there is also a zone in Dhaka city, and they have got the responsibility to conduct a survey. Conduct a survey means that they have to find out whether these apartments are actually rented out or these apartments are owned by the landowners for his habitation. So these are the weapons actually, how this is actually determined. But there is no particular strict way to find out whether the apartment has been rented out or it has been occupied by the owner himself. If the owner does not show the rental value of the property, he can hide it. Yes, of course, why not? Because he is taking money from you in cash. So in that case, he can hide it. But in the income tax ordinance, there was a provision like that. That means if your monthly rental value is more than 25,000, in that case, it has to be transacted through checks. You have to pay your rental value in check. But this is not actually strictly followed. So had it been strictly followed, then many evasions would have been avoided. But nowadays, there are so many evasions with regard to the renting out of the properties because of non-compliance with the rules and regulations. But there are ways, because if somebody hides his income from the house property and afterwards he is caught that he did not show his income to the income tax authority, in that case, there are of course penal provisions. That means he could be penalized for hiding the income from the house property. So these are the measures the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes can take. Sometimes he can send his inspector, sometimes he can take information from the survey zone, because there is a system that information slips could be communicated among the departments of the taxation. Information slips means I have got one jurisdiction in a particular area, and I found that the person there had a number of income sources. So some of the income sources could be his salary, could be his house property, could be a commission agency or some other sources. So when there are a number of sources of income, the information slip could be communicated to other circles or zones for verifying whether there is any income which falls under their jurisdiction. So another Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, he might have some information with regard to the income of that particular person. So if he does not have, definitely he will not ask for any information from that person, or he will not communicate any information to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. But if he thinks that there might be some sources of income in other jurisdictions, of course, there could be some information slips going through various departments or various circles. So that is the way actually how we are finding information with regard to a particular person. But nowadays in Bangladesh, you see every transaction is not digitalized. So had the information of different sources been digitalized, then it would have been much easier for the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes to find out whether a person is actually hiding his income or not. So that is the understanding what I have.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sir.
Okay, then we can move to the next terminology or definition, which is appellate joint commissioner. And you might have heard about the joint commissioner of taxes. There are two types of joint commissioners. One is appellate joint commissioner and another is inspecting joint commissioner. So he is basically the supervising officer for the deputy commissioners of taxes. So under section 3, a person is appointed to be an appellate joint commissioner of taxes. The primary function of an appellate joint commissioner of taxes is to hear the appeals referred by the assessees. So when the assessee is not satisfied with the assessment made by the deputy commissioner of taxes, in that case, he can prefer an appeal against the deputy commissioner of taxes to the appellate joint commissioner of taxes. So this is in fact the primary forum at which the appeal could be preferred. But there is another forum which is called appellate tribunal. That is the second stage of preferring an appeal. So if the aggrieved assessee or taxpayer is not satisfied with the verdict given by the appellate joint commissioner of taxes, he can prefer the second appeal to the appellate tribunal. So here, appellate joint commissioner of taxes, he is the first authority, appellate authority in a zone to hear the appeals preferred by the assessees. But you will see that appellate joint commissioner or somebody is actually preferring an appeal to the appellate additional commissioner of taxes. So both of their functions are the same. What the appellate joint commissioner is doing, an appellate additional commissioner is also doing the same thing. So in the definition, you will see that an appellate joint commissioner of taxes also includes an appellate additional commissioner of taxes. So their functions are the same. And if the assessee is not satisfied with the verdict given by the appellate joint commissioner of taxes, then he would have another option to prefer a second appeal to the appellate tribunal. So when verdict is given by the appellate joint commissioner of taxes, it has to be effected by the deputy commissioner of taxes. That means revision of the assessment order. And there is also a provision that if the deputy commissioner of taxes thinks that the appellate joint commissioner has not done justice to the department and there is a chance of revenue loss, then he can prefer an appeal against the order given by the appellate joint commissioner to the appellate tribunal. That is also possible. So the verdict actually becomes disputed and it takes a lot of time in order to finally dispose of the matter. However, with regard to the cases involving facts, the appellate tribunal is the highest authority. But if there are cases involving law points, in those circumstances, appellate tribunal is not the highest authority. Then the High Court division of the Supreme Court would be the highest authority to dispose of the cases or give verdict. So that you should keep it in mind, because whenever you will be a practicing chartered accountant, there would be clients who would approach you for your advice. That means whether a case could be contested in the appellate tribunal, or whether there is a chance that he can also go to the High Court division of the Supreme Court. So that's why you need to understand which cases will go to the appellate tribunal for final verdict and final settlement, and which cases will go to the High Court division of the Supreme Court for final settlement. That has to be determined by you, and you have to advise the SSC with regard to that. Okay.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. I have a question in this section. So,
Yeah.
if you told me a few minutes earlier, if SSC is not satisfied on the assessment of the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, he can appeal the appellate tribunal. After that, the final destination is the High Court. So my question is, SSC can face the all sector. I'm talking about from the DCT to appellate commissioner to High Court. As we know, the High Court and Supreme Court mentioning the lawyer, those are enlisted. They can fight with on behalf of clients. But we are going to be a chartered accountant. When we be chartered accountant, then can we fight with on behalf of our client in the High Court or appellate tribunal, or SSC can also done this job by himself? Thank you, sir.
Okay, so yes, since you are a representative of the SSC, you can go to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes for hearing, that is the primary stage, and you represent him there. So when the assessment order is made and the SSC is not satisfied with the assessment order, then you can prefer an appeal to the appellate tribunal. You can to the appellate joint commissioner or appellate additional commissioner. You can do it on behalf of the SSC. And even if there is a case of second appeal, that means when the verdict of the appellate joint commissioner or appellate additional commissioner is not going in favor of the SSC, in that case, SSC might have the option to go to the appellate tribunal. In that case also, you can just it everything, and you represent the SSC before the tribunal, and you can contest. You can give your arguments, and you can also submit all the documents, accounts, bank accounts, etc. And you can cite cases. That means similar cases which were actually disposed of by some other tribunals, etc. So up to that, it's okay. But if you think that the case does not involve any law point, in that case, up to tribunal, it's final. But if the case involves law points, then there is a question that the SSC can go to the High Court division of the Supreme Court. But if you do not have any power to represent the SSC before the Supreme Court, that is High Court, in that case, you cannot go there. But you have got the power. If you have got the power in order to represent the SSC before the High Court, yes, in that case, you can also go there. Otherwise, he has to appoint another lawyer, and you can assist the lawyer. So that's the case.
So that means if the SSC give me the power, if I am not the lawyer, I am the chartered accountant, then I can fight on behalf of my SSC in High Court. Is it, sir?
You can fight if the High Court actually accepts you as the chartered accountant or as the representative of the SSC. It depends on the High Court. If the High Court does not allow you to represent the SSC, in that case, you cannot. But the SSC himself can represent the case there. Otherwise, he can employ one lawyer who is authorized to practice in the High Court. So all the lawyers are not authorized to practice in the High Court. You know it very well. there are some lawyers who are actually authorized to practice in the judges court, lower court, etc. So until and unless a lawyer is authorized to practice in the high court, he cannot go there on behalf of your SSC. So when you are a chartered accountant, and if the high court does not permit you to represent the SSC, in that case you cannot. So in that case, what shall you do? In that case, your SSC has to go to a lawyer who is a practicing lawyer in the high court. And you can assist the practicing lawyer only on behalf of the SSC. You understand what I mean? Is
Yes,
it
sir. I
clear to
understand.
you?
Yes, sir. I understand, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So up to tribunal, you don't have any problem, but when it goes to the high court, then the high court should accept you as the representative. As I told you that all the lawyers are not permitted to practice in the high court division. So that's why there are some specific lawyers who can represent the SSC there. And that has to be first decided. Okay, then the definition of appellate tribunal. I have discussed the appellate tribunal. Of course, this is the second forum after the appellate joint commissioner of taxes or appellate additional commissioner of taxes. And the tribunal is a forum where you will find one president and there are some members. Members means one could be accountant member, one could be judicial member, something like that. A joint decision is actually taken in the tribunal. So members can just give their views, and president is also authorized to give his views. So on the basis of the consensus, they will write a decision. And that can go in favor of the SSC or that can go against the SSC. So the tribunal, as I have told you earlier, that its verdict is final in cases involving fact. And in cases involving law, this is not the final forum. So another forum is there, which is the High Court division of the Supreme Court. So what type of facts are there? The fact could be cited like your sale was estimated at Taka 5 crore for an assessment year. And the SSC was not satisfied with the estimate made by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes because he has got his previous record. And in the previous record, that means in the previous year, the sale was estimated at Taka 3 crores for the whole year. Now it has been estimated at Taka 5 crores. And gross profit has been determined at 15% in both the cases. That means in both the years. So the SSC could prefer an appeal before the Appellate Joint Commissioner of Taxes and again to the Appellate Tribunal if he is not satisfied with the decision given by the Appellate Joint Commissioner of Taxes. So that's why the tribunal will decide the amount of sale. That means whether Taka 5 crore would be decided by the tribunal or not, or whether they will think that the sale could be reduced on the basis of the previous record. So if the tribunal thinks that this is estimated at too high a rate and this is exaggerated or it does not have any basis to determine such a high figure of sale, in that case, the tribunal can take a decision to reduce it. It could reduce the sale to 3 crores of Taka, or it could reduce to 3.5 crores of Taka, whatever it is. So if the decision is given like this by the tribunal, in that case, it would be the final decision, and the SSC cannot prefer any appeal to the High Court division of the Supreme Court. Not possible. So these are examples of facts and figures, but not law point. But there could be law points. So what are the law points? Law points could be like the determination of an expenditure with regard to whether it is a revenue expenditure or whether it is a capital expenditure. So if the DCT thinks that this is a revenue expenditure or thinks that this is a capital expenditure, and if the SSC has got some dispute with that, in that case, he can go to the High Court division of the Supreme Court in order to have a final decision with regard to the nature of the expenditure, whether this is revenue expenditure or capital expenditure. Same case with revenue receipt and capital receipt. So if the DCT thinks that this is a revenue receipt, so he will tax it. If he thinks that this is a capital receipt, he will not tax it. So when it goes against the SSC, in that case, SSC has got the option to get it determined by the High Court division of the Supreme Court when the law point involves. Okay, so next terminology could be approved gratuity fund. So there is, of course, a gratuity fund created by a company or by any government office or any authority, autonomous body, etc. And gratuity fund is, of course, created in order to give some benefit to the employees who are working with the organization. And this depends on the number of years an employee is serving with the organization. So there are different policies of gratuity fund, and the gratuity fund could be formed or created as per Part C of the first schedule. You will see the first schedule at the end of the Income Tax Ordinance 1984, and Part C you can consult when you want to form a gratuity fund. Say, for example, you are working with an organization, a private company, etc., and then you have been given the responsibility to form an approved gratuity fund. So gratuity fund you can create, but it should be approved by the National Board of Revenue. If it is not approved by the National Board of Revenue, then the benefits which will be derived by the SSCs at the time of retirement or at the time of their leaving the organization, in that case, they will not be given tax benefits. So you have to be very careful about the formation, and whenever it has been approved by the National Board of Revenue, afterwards you have to get it renewed by the National Board of Revenue. And this is important in the sense that even if you are in the government, you will be getting the gratuity fund at the end of your retirement. And the uniform policies there in the government, but private companies' policy could be different, how the gratuity fund will be created and how the gratuity benefits will be given to the employees. So if I have to mention the government benefits, what I can say is that an employee is entitled to having the gratuity. And how it is calculated, it has to be known to you, because if you want to practice as a chartered accountant or advise a client, you have to know about it. We have to first look at the last basic salary of the employee. So, for example, in the government, the highest basic salary is 82,000 taka. And if it is so, And if the government servant retires from that position, this 82,000 taka would have to be taken into account in order to determine the pension money and the gratuity money. So 82,000 taka last basic pay, and you have to calculate 90% of it first. So if it is 90%,
73.8.
then what should be the figure?
73,800.
Okay. $73,800 taka. That is the 90% of the last basic pay. Now you divide it into two, 73,800. So if you divide it into two, it comes to 36,900, I think. 36,900. That's the figure. That means the 50% of that figure, 73,800. So this 36,900 is the figure which you will be receiving as a pension money. Pension money means per month pension money that you will be receiving every month. But of course, you will have, say, medical allowance, which is 1,500 taka, not more than that. And afterwards, when you complete 1 year, in that case, you will be given 5% increment as a matter of inflation or as a protection against inflation. So 36,900 taka is the pension money, and the remaining 36,900 taka, that should be taken into account for calculating the gratuity money. And you have to multiply it by 230. So if you multiply it by 230, you will receive a figure which could be something like 87 lakhs, something. And that should be the one-time payment you will be given by the government as a gratuity money. And that's the figure. And this money, of course, is exempted from tax. Pension money is also exempted, and the gratuity money which you are receiving just after your retirement, it will also be exempted. And up to taka 2 crores 50 lakhs, that will be exempted from tax. But if you receive something more than 2 crores 50 lakhs taka as gratuity, in that case, it will be taxed. So that is the approved gratuity fund or gratuity money. This is as a matter of recognition to the service provided by you to the company or to the government, in recognition of your service to an organization or to the government, whatever it is. And then you come to another definition, which is approved superannuation fund or pension fund. Pension fund is also created by the government or any private organization or autonomous body, etc., and it should be approved. The important point to remember is that if you form a pension fund, you can do it, but if it is not approved by the National Board of Revenue, in that case, the pension money receiving by the employees would have to pay tax on that. But if it is approved by the National Board of Revenue, in that case, you will be given the benefit of exemption. That means your pension will not be taxed. So that's the important thing you have to do. And when forming a pension fund, then you have to follow Part A of the first schedule. And that is important for you to know. And you have to get it renewed every year. You have to submit the form, applying for the pension fund to the Commissioner of Taxes under whose jurisdiction you fall, and the Commissioner of Taxes would forward it to the National Board of Revenue for approval. And you have to get it renewed by the Commissioner of Taxes of your jurisdiction. So this is important for that reason, as I had mentioned to you. Then you can go to the definition SSC. SSC is a very common term in the income tax area. That means whenever you go to the income tax area, meaning that the people who are involved in income tax practice or work in the income tax department, they know about the SSC. SSC is a term which is not very common to the general masses. So general masses know it as a taxpayer. But the peculiar term here in the taxes department is SSC. So it's a little bit different. And as a chartered accountant or cost and management accountant, etc., you already know it, or you will be knowing it. So means a person who is paying taxes to the government, who has got taxable income, and who is receiving any notice from the income tax department for any reason, or who is given a refund money from the taxes department, or who once submitted a return and was assessed, but later on he did not have any income, but still then he has to submit a return, and he will also be treated as an SSC. So there are a number of conditions under which a person would be treated as an SSC. If you have received a TIN for any reason from the taxes department, you will also be treated as an SSC. So TIN sometimes is needed, taxpayers identification number, for not having your income, rather for other reasons. If you want to buy a car with the gift money, you have to take a TIN. If you want to participate in a tender when you are unemployed, it means that you are trying to explore some sources of income. And in that case, you have to obtain a TIN certificate in order to participate in the tender, but actually you don't have any income. So these are some examples, and these are not actually justified or not fair to obtain the TIN certificate. It's not needed. However, it has been made compulsory for many purposes that you have to obtain a TIN certificate. This year, it has been introduced that if you want to buy a savings instrument, say family savings certificate or pension savings certificate or something else, whatever it is, in that case, you have to produce a copy of the return that you have submitted. What does it indicate? It indicates that you have got some income and you have submitted the return showing that income. So this is actually useless. This is my personal opinion, of course. This is not the opinion of the taxes department, because if I do not have taxable income, in that case, why should I submit the return while buying a savings instrument? And if I submit a return showing nil income, or if I submit a return showing an income which is not taxable, what does it indicate? How it brings benefit to the government exchequer? It does not bring any benefit to the government exchequer. So that's why this is not very fair. So it could have been done in other ways, which would have been very effective ways of asking people to submit the return with taxable income. since you have a concept of taxable income and a concept of total income. So the total income concept is there, meaning that if you cross the limit of taka 3 lakhs per year, in normal cases, I would say, then you are supposed to pay tax if you cross that limit. If you have income up to taka 3 lakhs, you are not supposed to pay taxes. And in that case, you don't have to submit the return. But if you cross the limit, in that case, you have to pay taxes. Then you are an SSC, of course, since you have got taxable income. So this 3 lakh taka of total income, which is called general exemption limit. This is called general exemption limit. So if you fall in the general exemption limit, why should you submit a return? Why should you obtain a TIN certificate? So these are questionable. However, you must know that this TIN is necessary. And when you have a TIN, you are an SSC. And there are some conditions. You will go through it definitely, and you will be able to understand when you are treated as an SSC or not. Okay, then come to the definition assessment ER. Assessment year is very important for you because in that year your assessment would be completed, meaning that the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would assess your income. So that is the period of 12 months, starting from the 1st day of July of the fiscal year and ending on the 30th day of June next year. Next year means the same fiscal year, of course. So the current assessment year has started from 1st of July this year, 2022, and it will come to an end on the 30th day of June, 2023. So during this year, the assessment would be completed for the income you earned during the income year 2021-2022. So whatever you have earned in that year, you have to pay taxes on that if it is taxable. So assessment year is the corresponding year for an SSC with regard to his income year. And the next definition would be Assistant Commissioner of Taxes. And it means a person appointed to be an Assistant Commissioner of Taxes under Section 3 of the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. This section is important to remember. That means when an Assistant Commissioner of Taxes is appointed, he is appointed under Section 3 of the Income Tax Ordinance. And at the same time, you have to remember one thing, which is also very important. Assistant Commissioner of Taxes is an assessing officer, and this is the entry point to the Income Tax Department as a Class 1 officer. So an Assistant Commissioner of Taxes is always a Class 1 officer. But if we mention about the assessing officer could be Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, Assistant Commissioner of Taxes, or Extra Assistant Commissioner of Taxes. All these three categories of officers are treated as assessing officers. So in the definition, you will see that when you look at the definition of a Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, you will find that the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes means a Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. The term includes has been mentioned there. So you will see in the definition that the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes includes a Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, an Assistant Commissioner of Taxes, and an Extra Assistant Commissioner of Taxes. It means that all these three categories of officers are falling under the definition of Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So Assistant Commissioner is also Deputy Commissioner, and an Extra Assistant Commissioner of Taxes is also Deputy Commissioner of Taxes in the eye of law, but they have got different grades of salary. And an Assistant Commissioner of Taxes would be promoted to the rank of a Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, and usually they are recruited by the Public Service Commission of Bangladesh. However, there are some promotions that take place in the department, and an extra assistant commissioner of taxes could be promoted to the rank of an assistant commissioner of taxes. So that is also possible. And then come to the definition Bangladeshi company. You know, the company is very important for you to know, because this is an entity. And if you look at the definition of person, so definition of person is there in the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. So person does not mean an individual. It means some other entities as well. So the definition says that a person includes an individual, an association of persons, a Hindu undivided family, a company, a firm, a fund, a local authority, a municipal corporation, a city corporation, an artificial juridical person, etc. All these are treated as persons. So these are, in other words, you can say entities, we would say. And the company is, of course, formed under the Companies Act 1994. Because the Companies Act 1994 is there in existence in Bangladesh. So that's why whenever a person goes to form a company, he has to do it under the Companies Act 1994, and he has to go to the Register of Joint Stock Companies and Firms. So Register of Joint Stock Companies and Firms is the chief of the Office of the Register of Joint Stock Companies and Firms, and is generally Joint Secretary or an additional secretary to the government of Bangladesh. And the Office of the Register of Joint Stock Companies and Firms is under the Ministry of Commerce. And they will approve of a company, whether the company could be formed or not, whether the name of the company could be accepted or not. Sometimes you have to submit the name of the company, but that is not accepted by the Register of Joint Stock Companies and Firms because it's a duplicate name. Duplicate name means it has clashed another name, the same name. So that's why it cannot be accepted. So that's why you have to follow the rules and regulations of the Companies Act 1994. And most importantly, there are two types of companies in Bangladesh. One is a private limited company and another a public limited company. And there are special characteristics for both types of companies. For a public limited company, the minimum number of shareholders could be 7, and the maximum number is unlimited. And in case of a private limited company, the minimum number of shareholders could be 2, and the maximum number is 50. And the public limited companies have got some more opportunities or facilities. So, for example, they can issue shares to the public, and they can be registered with the stock exchange. They can also issue IPO, etc. And most importantly, you have to prepare 2 documents. One is the Memorandum of Association, another is the Articles of Association. So these are the principal documents you have to prepare for forming a company. And Memorandum of Association is the primary document and most important document in which you will have 5 clauses. And the clauses are very important for you to remember. So first clause is the name clause, and second clause is object clause, third clause is situation clause, fourth clause is capital clause, the fifth clause is liability clause. So these are the 5 clauses which you have to mention very specifically. A name clause, as I have said to you, that should be different from others, should not be similar to another name. Situation clause. This is very important because we are actually studying Bangladeshi company, which is a Bangladeshi company. A Bangladeshi company is one which is located in Bangladesh, which is registered under the Companies Act 1994 and is located in Bangladesh. That means its registered office should be located in Bangladesh. So this is the situation clause, what we are mentioning now, and situation clause is very important for you. If your registered office of the company is not located in Bangladesh, then you cannot say that this is a Bangladeshi company. The management of the affairs of the company should be located in Bangladesh. The other clauses, as I have mentioned to you, those are also important for you. Object clause, there should be some objects or objectives of the company, what you will do, whether you will be doing business, you will be manufacturing, you will be providing services, etc., etc. What you want to do, what is your motive, whether you are a profit-oriented company or not. So the primary purpose of business is to make profit, and that has to be mentioned in the memorandum of association in the object clause. And capital clause, liability clause, those are also very important because capital clause, you need to raise the capital, and the maximum capital that you can raise would be the authorized capital of the company. And after that, you cannot raise any capital, but you have to be limited to the authorized capital as mentioned in the capital clause of the company. But your paid up capital could be much less than the authorized capital. That is also possible. And the liability clause, of course, that is another important aspect because your liability will be limited to the value of the shares you are holding now. And in case of dissolution of the company or liquidation of the company, you would be liable to pay to the outsiders, that is creditors, to the extent, to the value of your shares, etc. So that's why it's also very important for you to understand. And the banking company comes into the scene, and banking company is also like a normal company, but it is regulated by the Banking Companies Act 1991. But it has got its own objectives. That means it's not a manufacturing concern or manufacturing company, rather it's a company which actually provides services to the people, who takes deposits and pays loan, charges interest, and deals with foreign currencies, etc. So they have got their specific objectives. Then come to the definition board. Whenever somebody says about board, you as a person of the accounting area or income tax area, you will know that when board is mentioned, you will refer it to the National Board of Revenue, nothing else. So board means National Board of Revenue, which is the highest authority of the Income Tax and Customs Department. And the board is under the Internal Resources Division of the Ministry of Finance. So the Secretary of the Internal Resources Division of the Ministry of Finance would be the ex officio chairman of the National Board of Revenue. And the National Board of Revenue is responsible for formulating policies with regard to tax, VAT, and customs. So the chairman is the person who is heading the National Board of Revenue, and under him there are members of various wings. So one wing is the taxation wing, another wing is VAT and customs wing. So the wings are actually headed by members. And under the members, there are first secretaries and second secretaries. So this is the structure of the National Board of Revenue. And the National Board of Revenue controls and administers the taxes zones, that is the field positions, we would say, which are called zones. Then come to the definition of business. So business is very much related to you, because when the question of income tax comes, it means that somebody is doing business or somebody is working with an organization, having salaries, and profit is actually involved in the process. When there is a business, the concept of profit is there. If it is a venture, yes, of course, that also involves profit. And it means trade, commerce, manufacture, or any adventure or connected with the business or profession. So the business actually means those. While you will go deep into the income tax ordinance, the income of business will be calculated, and that will be calculated under section 28. You will see that there is a section which is 28, which determines the income from business. It means that under section 28, you can calculate income from business or from profession. So both of them are under section 28. So business could be of a variety types, maybe manufacturing business, maybe trading business, maybe service-oriented business, and at the same time, the consultancy work you are doing, that also involves business, like profession. So if you are a chartered accountant, this is a profession, but it will fall under the same section. If you are a cost accountant, you are also a professional and you can consult or do consultancy service. If you are a dentist, of course, it is also a consultancy service, or this is a professional service you are rendering to the public. So you have to remember those. And then you go to the definition, capital asset. What is a capital asset? And why is it necessary? Why should you know capital asset? There are so many assets in the business, maybe liquid asset, maybe current asset, maybe circulating asset, maybe fixed asset, maybe intangible asset. But what is the necessity of knowing the capital asset? Can you answer this question, or you have any common understanding? I want to hear from you. If you can share your views with me, that would be great. No answer?
Sir, Assalamu alaikum. Capital asset means, I guess, car, home, etc.
Capital asset means, yes, tell me, no problem.
Investment on properties, stocks.
Okay. Yes, good to some extent. And why is it necessary? You have any idea about that? Why it is necessary? To identify whether this is a capital asset or not. Why it is necessary to identify. So it is necessary because when it is a capital asset, if you want to sell it later on, then a capital gain will arise out of the sale of the capital asset. So if the asset is not a capital asset, then capital gain will not arise out of that. So that's why we have to know whether an asset is a capital asset or not. And the definition says that capital asset means property of any kind held by the SC, whether or not connected with his business or profession. So it could be connected to business or it could not be connected to business. And most important thing is that an asset will not be included as a capital asset if it is a stock in trade, stock of raw materials, or consumable stocks, etc. So if you find in a business that there are some stocks in trade, could be stock in trade of finished goods, could be stock in trade of raw materials, etc. But these are not actually capital assets because they are meant for onward sale, meaning that those assets have been kept by the business for sale. So that's why they are not capital assets. And again, personal effects. If you see that there are personal effects of the SSC, those will not be included or considered as capital assets. So what are the personal effects? Personal effects are movable property, including wearing apparel, jewelry, furniture, fixture, equipment, and vehicles, which are held exclusively for personal purposes and are not used for the purposes of business or profession. So whenever I have got some movable assets which are not used in the business or which are not used for professional purposes, in that case, they will not be treated as capital asset. But if they are connected to business, that means if I involve them in my business or profession, in that case, that will be treated as a capital asset. So for example, I am a doctor and I have got a car and I am using the car for my professional purpose. That means I go to the diagnostic center or my chamber, or I go to the houses of the patients, or I go to a hospital in order to treat the patients. In that case, that car would be treated as a capital asset because I am using the car for professional purposes. Same is the case with the businessman. If the businessman uses a car in order to go to his business house, his office, in that case, his car would be treated as a capital asset. But if it is used for personal purposes only, not for business or professional purposes, in that case, that would not be treated as a capital asset. So I believe this is understandable to you, why a capital asset is needed to be identified, because capital gain will arise out of that. That's why. And then the definition of chartered accountant. The definition of a chartered accountant is according to the Chartered Accountants Order 1973. It has been accepted by the Income Tax Ordinance that a chartered accountant means a person to be a chartered accountant as defined in the Bangladesh Chartered Accountants Order 1973. And the ICAB, that is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bangladesh, has also been established under the Chartered Accountants Order, the Presidential Order number 2 of 1973. So this is important for you to remember, and your profession will be regulated by the Chartered Accountants Order 1973. Your membership of the institute will also be regulated by the Chartered Accountants Order. Your examination, your registration, your practicing certificate, your professional ethics, all these are as per the Presidential Order number 2 of 1973. And the next terminology is commissioner. So when we mention commissioner, commissioner could be anybody, and there are commissioners in Dhaka City Corporation, in municipalities, local governments, etc. But this commissioner is different because commissioner means the commissioner of taxes. And commissioner of taxes means a person who is responsible for collecting revenue and who is actually appointed to be a commissioner of taxes under Section 3 of the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. So commissioner of taxes could be commissioner of taxes, commissioner of taxes appeals, or maybe director general, something like that. There are some definitions like the director general. So that position could also be treated as commissioner of taxes if the power or the grade is the same. Then the commissioner of taxes is responsible for realizing the revenue. He has got a budget. Budget means an allocation of target, and he tries to fulfill the target by realizing revenue. That means by making assessments and collecting revenue from the taxpayers. And next definition is commissioner appeals. Commissioner of taxes appeals. So he is the person who is responsible for hearing appeals of the assessees. That means when an assessment is made by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes and the assessee is aggrieved with the assessment order, in that case, he can prefer an appeal to the Commissioner of Taxes Appeals, and he will hear the cases and gives a decision. And his decision would be implemented by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. However, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes could contest the decision given by the Commissioner of Taxes Appeals. So his position is similar to the position of Commissioner of Taxes, who is responsible for collecting revenue. But in case of the Commissioner of Taxes Appeals, he is not responsible for collecting revenue. So his function is different. We can just take a break for some time, then we come back again.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Maybe for 15 minutes. Will it be fine?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
9:15 is done, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, a little bit late. Over. Let us quickly finish. We actually discussed commissioner appeals. Now again, the definition of company comes. So the definition of the company, you know it well. We discussed this before, but here, not a Bangladeshi company, but a company. So it is a body corporate established or constituted by or under any law for the time being in force. So that means the law is in force at the moment, which is Companies Act 1994, but another Companies Act is going to be enacted very soon because a new act is required to be enacted now. And there are steps to simplify some of the processes of the company, especially some complicated issues are there. So for example, when a company cannot hold an AGM, that is annual general meeting, within the specified time, in that case, the company cannot hold it without taking any approval of the High Court division of the Supreme Court. So in order to hold an AGM, it is necessary for the company to go to the court in order to obtain the permission to hold the AGM, which is very cumbersome or which is not actually fair. In that case, if the power of the Register of Joint Stock Companies and Firms is vested in him in order to allow a company to hold a meeting, that is general meeting, within or without the time, that is beyond the specified time. In that case, it will be simplified. That is, the company would be able to have some sort of comfort in holding the general meeting, annual general meeting. So these are the provisions. I just give you an example which provision has to be made simple. So this is one of the provisions what I am mentioning now. So the law would provide such provisions in the very near future. So it's under process. The Ministry of Commerce is actually taking steps to enact a new Companies Act. Okay, so if you go to the definition of a company, you will see that which will be treated as a company. For example, an association or combination of persons called by whatever name, if any of such persons is a company as defined in the Companies Act 1913 or 1994. In that case, it will be treated as a company. That means it's an association of persons. But as I said to you, that a person may be any entity. It could be an individual, it could be a firm, it could be a company, it could be any other artificial juridical person, so and so. So in that case, if there is an association of persons, one of the persons could be a company, but others could be individuals. So if one of the persons is a company, in that case, the whole association of persons would be treated as a company. So this is the definition of a company. That means it is one of the provisions of the definition of a company. Any association or body incorporated by or under the laws of a country outside Bangladesh. So if there is an association here or a body not incorporated in Bangladesh, but it is incorporated outside of Bangladesh, in that case, it would be treated as a company. Any foreign association or body not incorporated by or under any law, which the board may, by general or special order, declare to be a company for the purposes of this ordinance. So when there is an association here, which is a foreign association, but it is not a company. But the board, for the purposes of income tax, can treat it as a company by a special order. That means, say for example, a buying house is there in Bangladesh. The buying house, sometimes it is not a company, but it's a foreign body. Maybe there are some people working for procuring some ready-made garments or some other purposes, whatever it is, in order to do business, but they don't have any transaction here. But in that case, the National Board of Revenue, if it thinks fit, can treat this body as a company by a special order. It can issue an order stating that this body or this association would be treated henceforth as a company in Bangladesh for the purposes of income tax. Something like that. So these are the features of the company as per the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. And again, another definition could be cooperative society. So what is a cooperative society? A society which is actually registered under Cooperative Societies Act 2001. It is under any law for the time being in force governing the registration of cooperative societies. So when there is a law with regard to that for registering the cooperative societies, and it is formed by some people in order to do business or in order to provide some services, etc., but it should fall under the Cooperative Societies Act 2001. In that case, this will be treated as a cooperative society. So it should not get itself registered with the Register of Joint Stock Companies and Firms. Rather, it should be registered with the Register of Cooperative Societies and under the Cooperative Societies Act 2001. Then the definition of cost and management accountant. It's also important to remember because cost and management accountant is also a professional accounting body, and it's regulated by the Cost and Management Accountants Act 2018. Earlier, there was Cost and Management Accountants Ordinance 1977, but afterwards it has been changed to a law. That means an act in 2018. So it is regulated and controlled by the Cost and Management Accountants Act 2018. And they are also professional accountants, but not like you, because your function would be a little bit different, because you can work as a registered accountant as an external auditor, and for listed companies there must be audits to be conducted by you. That means a chartered accountant. But the cost and management accountant is not authorized to conduct an audit because they don't have any auditing function right at this moment. And you are working with a firm under which you can learn auditing works, and you can conduct audits into various companies or businesses as instructed by the firm. But in case of cost and management accountants, they are not doing such internship work. So they don't have any practical experience with respect to conduct of audits. So that's why they are not actually acquainted with the audit functions. But they can work with different organizations, they can maintain books of accounts, etc. And they are specially equipped with the cost accounting. Then come to the definition of dividend. So dividend, it is important for you to understand what dividend is. And you know very well that dividend is part of the profit. That means when there is a profit of a company And when taxes is paid from the profit, then the remaining part, it could be dividend if it is declared by the company to be given as dividend. So the decision of distribution of dividend or declaration of dividend depends on the management, and it should be decided in the annual general meeting of the company. That means the profit of the company is to be declared by the management. Then after tax profit has to be determined, because there is a certain percentage of tax on the profit, and later on the remaining part of the profit stays in the business. It sometimes stays in the business as retained profit, or sometimes it is divided into two parts. One part remains as retained earning and another part is to be distributed among the shareholders of the company. So it's the part of the profit, after tax profit, of course. The definition says that any distribution by a company of accumulated profits, whether capitalized or not, if such distribution entails the release by the company to its shareholders of all or any part of its assets or reserves. So here not only we are mentioning to the profit of the particular year, that means it does not only mean current profit, rather it also refers to accumulated profits or reserves. So if the company does not have profit for this year, but still it wants to declare dividend, it can declare dividend. It is possible, subject to the condition that the company should have accumulated profit or reserves. In that case, it can declare dividend. Sometimes such a decision is taken by the company because it is a matter of image of the company. So if the company wants to hold its image, in that case, it declares dividend, even if there is no profit and it has incurred loss. In that case, even it is possible for the company to declare dividend. Then it could be any distribution by a company to the extent to which the company possesses accumulated profits, whether capitalized or not, to its shareholders of debentures, debenture stock, or deposit certificates in any form, whether with or without interest. So here also the same thing, distribution of by a company to the extent to which the company possesses accumulated profits. So the primary condition is that it must have accumulated profits in order to declare a dividend. Again, any distribution made to the shareholders of a company on its liquidation to the extent to which the distribution is attributable to the accumulated profits, whether such accumulated profits have been capitalized or not. Now, the question is, at the time of liquidation, you will see that a certain amount is given to the shareholders. So it could be as part of the sale value of the assets, but even if it is part of the sale value of the assets, it will be treated as dividend only when that amount could be attributable to the part of the distribution of accumulated profit. That means to the extent to which it could be attributed to the accumulated profits or reserves. If there is any accumulated profit in the company, in that case, up to that amount, the distribution would be treated as dividend. But maybe you are getting 10,000 taka from the company at the time of its liquidation, but out of that amount, only 5,000 taka could be attributed to the accumulated profit. Then 5,000 taka could be treated as dividend, not 10,000 taka, because the remaining 5,000 taka would be from the sale of the assets. So that's why that will not be treated as dividend. So the features of dividend have been mentioned here under section 2, subsection 26. If you go through that, you will be able to understand what the dividend actually means and under which circumstances certain amount of money would be treated as dividend. Then another feature is important for you to remember. This is important because any payment by a private company often is sum, whether as representing a part of the assets of the company or otherwise, by way of advance or loan to a shareholder, or any payment by any such company on behalf or for the individual benefit of any such shareholder, to the extent to which the company in either case possesses accumulated profit. So whenever a private limited company pays an amount to a shareholder by way of loan or advance, or if the company pays to another person on behalf of the shareholder, in that case, it will be treated as dividend. But in all these cases, this amount should be equivalent to the accumulated profit or part of the accumulated profit, not beyond the amount of the accumulated profit. So that is necessary for you to understand. Okay, so there are some exceptions, of course. As we have mentioned about the advance or loan given to a shareholder by a company, and you will find some exceptions with regard to that. Any advance or loan made to a shareholder in the ordinary course of business, where the lending of money is a substantial part of the business of the company. So we said before that when a loan or advance is given to the shareholder, in that case, it would be treated as a dividend. However, if it is found out that the substantial part of the business is to lend money to the people, so that's the substantial business of the company. In that case, even if the company lends some money to the shareholder, that will not be treated as dividend. if you think that a bonus share has been issued by the company to the shareholders, whether that will be treated as dividend. In the past, bonus share issued to the shareholders by a company would have been treated as dividend. But that provision is no longer in existence. Nowadays, if a bonus share is issued to a shareholder by a company, in that case, the bonus share would not be treated as dividend. Rather, it will be treated as a capital receipt. Capital receipt means the share would be issued to the shareholder, and the shareholder would be receiving a part of the capital of the company. It means that his number of shares would be increased by the number of the bonus shares. So in that case, that would not be treated as dividend. So these are the features of the definition of dividend. You can go through it properly so that you can understand. And of course, this is not a very difficult task for you to understand all these issues. And next definition we go to is employee. Employee in relation to a company includes the managing director or any other director or other person who, irrespective of his designation, performs any duties or functions in connection with the management of the affairs of the company. Now you can ask me why the definition of employee is important. Because the people who are working with the company are all employees. But why here employee definition has been given specifically? Is because of the reason that we have to understand who an employee is. If I say that the managing director is the employee of the organization, or a director is the employee of the organization, but the staff members are not employees of the organization, then there might have some problems in future. Say, for example, the income tax authority wants to issue a notice to the company, ABC company, in order to submit the return, or in order for the company to appear before the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes for hearing. But the managing director of the company is not present. He is away from the country, so that's why the notice could not be issued to him. So the authority has to wait for a certain period of time for the return of the managing director to Bangladesh. So this is cumbersome, to some extent cumbersome, of course, and this hinders the process of the assessment. So that's why employee definition has been given, and anybody who is related to the management of the affairs of the company could be issued a notice, and that will be treated as has been issued to the management of the company, and the company would be responsible for complying with the order or complying with the request which are mentioned in the notice. That's why this definition has been given. Then come to the point, fair market value. What is a fair market value, and what is necessary? Why is it necessary? What is the necessity of it? Fair market value is in relation to an asset. Because if you want to sell one property, the question of determination of capital gain arises. And how to determine the capital gain or calculate the capital gain by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So he must know the sale value of the property or asset. And whatever value has been shown by you may not be accepted by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes if he has some confusion with regard to the price. So he will determine the fair market value of the asset. So when you sold out the property or asset on that day, what would have been the fair market value? That means at what price were you able to sell the property to a particular person? that should be determined by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. He can take some information from any authority, or he can just take a survey report from the area in which the property was sold out. And after that, he can determine the fair market value in order to calculate the capital gain. And the shown price might not be similar to the fair market value. In most cases, the shown price is less than the fair market value. So if the shown price is accepted by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, then the capital gain will be less. So in that case, it is advisable for the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes to calculate the fair market value, and in that case, he could determine the real capital gain or fair capital gain. So that's why the fair market value is the market value on the day when the property was sold out to a particular person. And another definition, which is farm. By farm, what we mean? By farm, we mean a partnership farm. This is, of course, general partnership firm, not chartered accountants firm, because in some cases, chartered accountants firm means a sole proprietorship concern. That is also called a firm. And the partnership firms among the chartered accountants, that is also a little bit different, because the partners should be valid partners in order to form a partnership firm, in order to practice chartered accountancy. If you do not have a practicing certificate, in that case, you cannot form a partnership firm. Chartered accountants firms, of course. So certificate of practice is actually necessary in order to become a partner of a partnership firm for the chartered accountants. Sometimes you will see that the membership of a member who is a chartered accountant of a firm has been revoked or has been suspended. In that case, he cannot remain as a partner of the firm. But in general, the partnership firm is regulated by the Partnership Act 1932, which is in existence in Bangladesh till now. So if you want to form a partnership firm in Bangladesh, you have to follow the Partnership Act 1932. And the definition of a firm has been given in the Partnership Act. And the definition is the relationship between the persons who have agreed to share the profits of a business. By all or by one of the partners on behalf of all. So the definition says that there could be partners and all of them can take part in the management of the business or carrying on business, or one of the partners on behalf of all the partners could participate in the management of the business. That is also possible. And there should be at least two persons in order to form a partnership, but the maximum number of members could be 20. And in case of banking partnership, it could be 10, minimum 2, maximum 10. So that is the definition of the partnership. And you have to follow the Partnership Act in order to form a partnership. Then come to the definition of income. The definition of income is also very important for you because tax is to be imposed on income. If you do not have income, tax will not be imposed on it. If you have loss, you are not supposed to pay taxes. So what is income? It should be a receipt. It could be profit. It could be a gain, or it could be something which is excess of the receipt over the expenses. So the receipt, if we say that this is an income, it should be a revenue receipt generally. But sometimes capital receipt is also treated as income when there is a provision with regard to that in the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. So, for example, the section 31 is there. So, section 31 says about the calculation of capital gains. So, since there is a section which is 31 determining capital gain, so it is also to be treated as income. But in general, capital receipt is not to be taxed. Revenue receipts has to be taxed. So if you receive a gift, or if you receive something from your relatives or from your friends, etc., which is treated as loan or advance or whatever it is, in that case, it will not be treated as a revenue receipt. And gift is also not treated as a revenue receipt, and it will not be taxed. So that's why it's different. So revenue receipt should be there, and that is the general term that we will use for income. And you will also know that income also includes, as per definition, losses. That means even if you incur a loss, it will also be treated as income. Income means negative income, so which is not taxed. It is different. It is not taxed. But maybe it's important to know why loss has to be treated as income. Because if you want to allow some expenses or expenditure, like entertainment expenditure, you want to allow. The DCT can allow entertainment expenditure even if the company incurs a loss. But in general term, it would mean that whenever you are making a profit, only then you would be allowed entertainment allowance, because it is as per Rule 65. Depends on the slab of the income. Up to a certain amount of money, a percentage of that money would be treated as entertainment allowance to be allowed to the business. So whenever the company incurs a loss, the entertainment allowance could also be allowed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes on the ground that loss is also an income, or income includes loss as well, which is a negative profit, negative loss, negative income. So that's why this is important to know. And another general terminology could be an amount on which tax is imposed. If there is an amount on which tax is imposed, that could be treated as income. So that is one of the features of the income. Okay. Then come to another definition, which is called interest. So you also know interest. Interest is a charge for services rendered, especially.
Here's the definition of interested: showing curiosity or concern about something or someone, having a feeling of interest.
So when you are taking money from the bank, borrow money from the bank, so they will charge you interest. It means that a certain percentage would be charged on the loan money you have received from the bank, which is called charges for their service or the cost of capital. That means they have invested money in you, and in that case, they are charging interest. So that is the cost of capital. So sometimes you will see that some of the banks, they do not charge interest, rather they say that this is a service charge. Especially the Islamic banks, they actually call it service charge. So service charge is also treated as interest. So interest includes the charges for the services rendered by the bank, especially for extending loan to the individuals, companies, or business houses. And later, you can see another definition, which is called market value, which is also important for different purposes. And market value, you will understand the value at which the product or produce could be sold out in the market at the current price or in the current situation. So that is also understandable to you, and there is ambiguity in it. Another definition, a little bit important for you, which is perquisite. And perquisite, as you know, that you get salaries, wages, etc. You have also got maybe incentive bonus or festival allowances, etc. And some of the payments you are receiving from the company or from the employer a little bit different. Say, for example, medical allowance you are getting, entertainment allowances you are getting, fine, there is no problem with those. But when you are getting a service from the company, that means you have been given a telephone, or you have got your own telephone, but the bill is being paid by the company. And your expenditure for education for your children, so that is paid by the company. That means the company is paying the tuition fee of your children in a school. In that case, what does it indicate? It indicates that this is not part of your salary, rather these are extra. So these are called actually perquisites. So this is an inclusive definition actually. So any benefit, whether convertible into money or not, provided to an employee by an employer called by whatever name, other than contribution to a recognized provident fund, approved pension fund, approved gratuity fund, and approved superannuation fund. So when contributions are made by the employer to those funds, those will not be treated as perquisites. And when you are getting salary, festival bonus, incentive bonus, all these profit in lieu of salary, advance salary, leave salary, etc., etc. All these are part of your salary, not perquisites. But as I mentioned to you before, that the bill which is being paid by your employer for your telephone, or the education expenditure paid by the employer for your children, will be treated as perquisite. So this is an example. And then come to the decision of person. We mentioned about the person. A person is not an individual only, rather it includes other entities as well. So a person includes an individual, an association of persons, a firm, a Hindu undivided family, a company, a juridical a person, municipality, fund, city corporation, etc. All these are actually treated as persons. Then we come to the definition of profit in lieu of salary, which is also important. What is profit in lieu of salary? Definition is very specific here. The amount of compensation due to or received by an associate from his employer at or in connection with the termination of or the modification of any terms and conditions relating to his employment. Meaning that if you are in contract with a person or with a company and your service is terminated, or your service is actually terms of contract is actually modified, and if there is a compensation money given by the employer for that reason, in that case, that compensation money would be treated as profit in lieu of salary. Or any payment due to or receipt by an associate from a provident fund or other fund to the extent to which it does not consist of contributions made by the associate and the interest on such contributions. It means that when you are contributing to a provident fund, your contribution would be there and the interest would be accrued on that contribution. And wherever you are receiving the amount from the provident fund at the time of your retirement or at the time of your leaving the company, in that case, if you receive something which is more than the amount what you have contributed plus the interest accrued thereon, so the amount which is more than that would be treated as profit in lieu of salary. I think recognized provident fund we have discussed, because provident fund, how to form it, we have discussed it earlier. So we need not discuss it here. But another definition, a little bit important, which is resident, and whether a person will be treated as a resident or not. That is important for you to know, and I believe everybody knows it. Resident does not mean that you are a citizen of the country. Rather, your stay will be considered. So for an individual, of course, if you stay in an income year for a period of 182 days or more, you would be treated as a resident. But if you stay in Bangladesh in an income year for less than 182 days, but you fulfill another condition, and that condition is that in the income year, you have to stay for a period of 90 days or more, having previously been in Bangladesh for a period of 365 days or more during the 4 years preceding that year. In that case, you will be treated as a resident. And of course, a foreigner could be treated as a resident if he stays in Bangladesh, fulfilling this condition. Or even a Bangladeshi who does not stay in Bangladesh, stays abroad, and he can be a non-resident because he did not stay here for the specific period as needed in order to become a resident. And for companies, of course, a company would be treated as a resident when the registered office would be here in Bangladesh and the control and management of its affairs would also be situated in Bangladesh. And for Hindu undivided family, association of persons, etc., the management of its affairs should be situated in Bangladesh as well. But local authorities or artificial juridical persons, they would remain residents here because there is no chance that they could be regulated from abroad. So that's why they are always resident. And the definition of salary is here. You can go through it. Salary, you understand very well what the salaries are. And this is inclusive definition. Your salary could be your pay, wages, fees, commissions, allowances, perquisites, advance salary, arrear salary, everything would be treated as your salary. And another important definition is speculation business. Speculation business is something different from normal businesses. That means you have invested in some projects or in some shares or securities, etc., which you have done for the purpose of making a windfall benefit. That means you have kept it for a certain period. Afterwards, you have the intention to sell them out, making a profit. So there is a risk involved in it. So when there is a risk involved in it, and it is very uncertain, and there are frequent fluctuations in the prices of the shares of securities, etc. In that case, it would be treated as a speculation business. But it could be different because you can come to a contract with a particular trader in order to receive the raw materials, in order to make the final product. And the final product would be exported by you to the global market. And if you reach an agreement with the trader, that is the supplier of raw materials, in order to avoid price fluctuations, in that case, it will not be treated as a speculation business. And then finally, the tax day. Tax day, as you know very well, that it is the 30th day of November nowadays, but earlier it was a little bit different. Sometimes it was 15th September, sometimes it was 30th September. So now it is 30th November. That is the tax day by which you have to submit your return in order to avoid some benefits, some inconveniences. So for example, if you want to submit the return under the self-assessment scheme, you have to do it by the 30th day of November. But if you cross that limit, then in that case, you won't be able to submit the return under the self-assessment scheme. And of course, you may have some time extended by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, which is 2 months in the case of Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, but you can again get it extended for another 2 months by the Joint Commissioner, that means Inspecting Joint Commissioner of Taxes. So 4 months you can actually extend, but after that it's not possible. So the usual day of submission of the return is by the 30th day of November. You can submit your return any day, starting from the 1st of July and up to the 30th day of November, if it is not extended by the National Board of Revenue. The National Board of Revenue may extend it for any purposes it deems fit. That means because of natural calamities, or because of economic conditions, or because of pandemic situation, etc. So that depends on the National Board of Revenue, unless it is declared by it. So I think that is up to now okay. The definition you can see here: transfer. Transfer is necessary for determining capital gain, and when transfer will take place, it means that you can sell a product, you can sell an asset, it will be transferred. But whenever you are making a gift, it's not a transfer, or you are making a will, it is also not transfer. So transfer, it should be in the eye of law, that is the transfer of the title of the asset from one person to another person. So you can just read the definition of transfer, and it's very clear and distinct. You won't have any problem with regard to that. And I believe that whatever we have discussed, the important terminologies we have discussed so far, some other terminologies are there, but those are not that important. But section 2, I would suggest you go through all the definitions one by one. That will help you a lot in understanding the concept of income tax. And you need to have a book, that means the income tax ordinance, with you. Because without going through the income tax ordinance 1984, it's really difficult for you to make out the meaning of the terminologies. So that's why it is advisable, if you do not have an income tax ordinance still now, you try to procure one, buy one. It's available everywhere. So please do that. Okay. We can now stop here. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
See you.